Yes, Mrs. Calvi here, doing a quick tutorial on creating a box and whisker plot if you have an odd amount of numbers in your data set. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to take our data set, which I happen to have here, and we are going to put the numbers in order from least to greatest. So I'm going to do that now. So my smallest number I have is 0. Then I have a 1. I have another 1. I have a 2. I have another 2. I have a 3. I have a 4, a 5, and then finally a 9. So you guys know I always go back, I double check to make sure I have all of the numbers that I'm supposed to have. So in my original data set, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 numbers. I want to make sure I still have nine numbers in my new data set. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now you know that doesn't guarantee that my numbers are correct, but at least I do have the right amount of numbers in my data set. Okay, there are a lot of steps going into creating a box and whisker plot, so really make sure you're staying with me. Your first step is to identify the median of your data set. All right, so if you remember, the median is the number that lands right in the middle, and it just so happens we have an odd amount of numbers, so we will have one number left in the center. All right, so let's go through this. I have 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, and I'm left with that 2 right there. So that 2 is going to be our median. Okay. I'm going to delete all the other numbers I have here just because I'm going to need the space. All right. So our median, we said, is 2. So I'm going to label that right there as a 2. Okay, so now the second step is to identify our lower half of our data set and our upper half of our data set. So the lower half is going to be all of the numbers to the left of the median that we just identified. So our lower half is going to be made up of these numbers. Our upper half is going to be all of the numbers to the right of the median that we just identified. So this will be our upper half over here. All right, next step is to identify the median of each of those halves. So remember, the median is the number that lands in the middle. But you'll notice here that we have 4 numbers, an even amount. So we're going to have 2 numbers left in the middle. And in this case, we have number 1 and number 1 left in the middle. So when we have 2 numbers in the middle, remember, we are going to add the 2 numbers together and divide by 2. Okay, 1 plus 1 is 2, cut 2 in half, we're back to 1. And this is actually going to be called our first quartile. So we call this our first quartile. Okay, and we said that that was the number 1. We now need to go and do that to the upper half. We need to find the median of these 4 numbers. So again, an even amount of numbers, 2 are left in the middle. 4 and 5 are going to be left. We're going to add those 2 and divide by 2. So we're going to take 4 and 5. We're going to add them. 4 plus 5 gives us 9. If you divide 9 in half, you would get 4.5. And you can kind of see what number comes exactly in between 4 and 5. 4.5 comes in between 4 and 5. And we are going to label that. That's going to be called our third quartile. And we said that that was 4.5. All right. Now we have 2 other things to identify. We have to identify our least value. So that means that's our smallest value. So that happens to be 0 in this case, right? So that's our least value. So 0 is our least value. And then we have to identify our greatest value. And our greatest value here happens to be 9. Okay, so in order to create a box and whisker plot, we need to have 5 numbers. We need to have our, I'll label it, least value. We need to have our first quartile. We need to have our median of the entire data set. We need to have our third quartile, which is the median of the upper half. And we have to have our greatest value. Okay, you just write greatest value over here. Okay, so now we have all the information we need. We actually now just need to create the box and whisker plot. So you need to have a number line for this. And I'm going to do my best drawing. Actually, I'm going to use blue for my number line so it stands out a little bit more. So I'm looking at my numbers. My smallest number is 0. My largest number is 9. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I can, what's going on? All right. Okay. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. All right, so the 5 numbers that we identified from our data set are the numbers we're going to plot on this number line. So I'm going to plot the number 0, and I'm just going to plot points above. So I'm going to plot a 0. I'm going to plot the number 1. I'm going to plot the number 2. I'm going to plot 4.5, which comes right in the middle of 4 and 5. And I'm going to plot the number 9. Okay, so far so good. All right, the box part of the box and whisker plot is made up of the 3 center points we just plotted. So all you're going to do is you're going to create literally a box around those 3 points. Now this center point, that's our median. We always put a line through that, okay? And then we are going to connect, these are our whiskers, the end of the box to our greatest value, the end of the box to our least value, okay? So this is how you create a box and whisker plot. Now a box and whisker plot is made up of 4 parts, if you can see. This little piece right here, this whisker is 1 part. This box right here is a 2nd part. The 3rd part is the larger part of the box. And the 4th part is the other whisker. Now, each part makes up 25% of the data. Okay, that's important because that's something you need to know. So this whisker here is 25% of the data. This little box here is 25% of the data. This box makes up 25% of the data. And this whisker makes up 25% of the data. So if you notice 4 at 25%, that totals 100% of the data. All right. So each part of the box and whisker plot makes up 25% of our data. All right. So this was creating a box and whisker plot with an odd amount of numbers. I'm going to make another video creating a box and whisker plot with an even amount of numbers. I will see you soon.